right, today, boys and girls, for our lesson, you're going to need Sort 51, Comparatives, ER and EST. So if you need to pause the video to get that sort, please go ahead and do that. And then when you're ready, press play. Before we get started, we want to make sure we understand what the word compare means. And so if you remember, the word compare means how you're looking at two or more things and you're thinking about how they are the same and how they are different. So for example, if I was looking at person A and person B, I could say that person A is shorter than person B, right? Or I could say person B is taller than person A. I'm comparing them, right? But what if I put in a third person, person C, how would I compare them? What would I say? I want you to just think about a statement that you could make now adding in person C. So you might say person C is taller than person A and B. Another thing you could say is person C is the tallest. And that's where we're going to be talking about today, is when you're spelling a word or you're reading or writing a word using comparison, you will often add ER if you're comparing two things, or EST. So let's move into our lesson. And what we want to do is we want to take a look at your sort first, okay? And we're going to take a look at a couple of these words. And before, I know that you can see I have some of mine sorted, but we're going to just kind of take a look at what we have here. We have words that end in ER, words that end in EST, IER, and IEST. So what I'd like to do before you go ahead and get sorted in yours is give you a couple rules to follow. So the first thing that we talked about was that when you are comparing two things, you will add ER. When you are comparing more than two things, you would add EST. The other rule to know refers to base words. So again, to review what a base word is, and by now you should be an expert at it, a base word is your main word. And remember when we were learning about prefixes that come before, are the letters before a word, those letters would become before your base word, and your suffixes or your endings, they come at the end of it, okay? So you want to look at your base word. What is the main word that they're talking about to help make sure you know how to understand what the word is, the meaning of the word, and then how to spell it. Well, the rule for adding endings is that when the base word ends in Y, you need to change the Y to I first, and then you add that ending. And the example that I have for you here is a word you're familiar with, happy. So if I was trying to say, she was happier than he was, if I was comparing two, I would change this Y to I and add ER. If I was comparing more than two people, okay, I might say something like, of all the children, she was happiest. Because again, I use EST when I'm comparing more than two things. So we want to make sure that you really know and understand these rules before we go into sorting and really thinking about them. And so one of the things that I'd like for you to do at this point now is I would like for you to pause the video and underline the base words. I want to see if you can find the base words in your word sort. So if you've already cut them, that's okay. Either underline the base words or highlight them, and then press play when you're done. Okay, second graders, so now that you've had a chance to look at the base words, or underline or highlight the base words, we're going to take a look at our sort here. And I've already done that, so you can kind of check to see if yours are correct. And you will notice that here, how did I figure out that this word, this here, easier, how to read that? Well, I remembered the rule that if I'm adding ER, I change the Y to I. So I can think to myself, the base word must start with EAS. If I add a Y, oh, I know that word. That word is easy, right? And we say easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So we can think of other words that we know that end in Y to help us remember these patterns. And let's just kind of take a look to see, were you correct in figuring out what your base word is? Now, if you did not already write easy or pretty for some of these words that end in Y and we had to change the Y to I before adding the ending, go ahead and write those down so that when you're practicing these words and thinking about what they mean, you truly know what the base word is and how to spell a base word correctly. So when we're taking a look, this first word, our base word is calm. This one is easy. You can see calmer if we were comparing two people or animals, and calmest if we're comparing more than two. So the base word here is pretty. For this closer and closest, the base word is close. So, and I know that this one was a little bit, because the word already ends in E, we are just adding that R there. And the same thing here, closest. And this is a word a lot of times, second graders, closest, that when you're reading, sometimes I'll hear people say closet, and you have to ask yourself, does that make sense? Look at the ending. The way that we read this is est, okay? So the way we would read this word is closest, meaning how near something is to someone else, or how near two objects or animals are near each other. Easiest, so easy is our base word. Craziest, crazy. Stronger, strong is our base word. Strongest, good. Cooler, so cool is our base word. Again, we have that crazy in here. So notice again, crazier. If you're not sure how to read this, you can even cover up that ending and think C-R-A-Z. Remember the rule that we add the I, we change the Y to I, and write out the letters, C-R-A-Z, add the Y, and then think, oh, crazy. So crazier, that must be crazier comparing two things. Hotter. Now here you'll notice our base word for hotter and for hottest is actually spelled H-O-T, one T. You might remember from before in learning that when a word has the consonant vowel consonant pattern, or a CVC pattern, and it has that short vowel sound, when we're adding an ending to it, we double, most of the time we double the consonant and then you add the ending, which is why for hotter and hottest you make two T's, you write two T's, okay? Coolest, your base word is cool. Weakest, weak. Again, hottest. Again, we have another one with the I where we change the Y to I for dirtier, weaker, and then dirtiest. So again, I'm going to remove this now that we know what our base words are. I want to look again, give you an opportunity to see the rules and what you learned. So ER, again, is when you're comparing two things, and you're going to use EST for your ending when you're comparing more than two things. And then again, think about the word. If the base word ends in a Y, change the Y to I first, and then add that ending. So at this point, if you have not cut and sorted your words, I'm going to ask you to please pause the video now, cut and sort your words, and then press play when you're done. All right, welcome back. So let's take a look at our sort. And I'm not sure if you noticed, but I did try to make sure that I put the comparatives, so the ER with the next to the word with EST, so that you can see them together. So let's read through, and again, if you have your words in different orders, as long as they're in the correct column, that's absolutely fine. But we're going to go through and just make sure that you can read these words. correctly. So under ER, words where we just we add ER to the ending to compare it. Calmer, closer, stronger, cooler, hotter, and weaker. And I know that I did not say this, but if you are not reading these words with me, please make sure that you're reading and following along, okay? Next one is bravest, calmest, closest, strongest, coolest, hottest, weakest. Now, when words that end in Y, so like happier, it does look a little weird, doesn't it? But if you remember the rule, and you think, oh, I see an ER here, so this I must have been Y for the base word, I know that word is happy. So under the IER, happier, we have easier, prettier, crazier, and dirtier. And then the same thing. So again, if we were trying to read this word and we weren't sure what it was, or we wanted to spell happiest and we couldn't remember, again, think about writing the base word, happy, changing the Y, replacing it with I, and adding EST. So we have happiest, easiest, prettiest, craziest, and dirtiest. All right, so again, boys and girls, this week you learned about comparatives, and comparatives are words that end in ER and EST that are used to compare two or more things, and when we look at how they are alike and how they are different.